Hi everyone, Master Alan here. I wanted to gift you guys a few tips that we have been going over in our leadership classes that we have for our teens and adults as they go developing into being leaders. So every week we're talking about a different character trait of leadership that you can go implementing. And one of these in particular, I really wanted to go over for parents. But the first one we covered was attentiveness. Attentiveness is very important. How we're going to express that with our body language, how we're going to look at people, not get distracted looking around, right? How we're going to listen to understand and not just listen to respond. We all had our moms or grandmas said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? For a reason, you got to listen. So that's easier said than done. Oftentimes it's not practice online when people are texting. They're just like read snippets and comments, and you see they start and they're not really seeking to understand the perspective of where someone's coming from. So developing that in your leadership skills is going to be amazing, and implementing that as parents for your children is something that's often overlooked. So because we are the parent and because we know more, we don't listen. We'll go out and say, no, this is what you have to do, this is what I'm telling you to do, and we're not really listening to what the child is trying to communicate. And we can't really lead someone if we really don't understand where they are. So first we need to understand where they are, so we need to seek to listen so that we can help them grow. Now, that being said, I don't mean that by listening as in your child's always right. Children will want to, stop doing things that are good for them, right? If they don't want to eat their vegetables, something that you shouldn't listen to them. You should find ways to motivate them. And we'll talk more about that during leadership, to get them to do that, right? If they're exercising, you want to motivate them to do that. That's not something that should be optional for them and say, oh, well, I just don't like to exercise. No, that's something that we have to do as part of our development. Going to school, educating ourselves, these are all things that we have to do. So we want to listen to where they are and what pain points they have when doing those things, but being able to understand it so then we can lead them to a place where they can be successful. Second week we covered this is really one of my favorite topics, is authority versus influence, and neither one is inherently bad or good. When I think of authority, I think of a police officer, right? A police officer has the authority to give you a fine if you're jaywalking or whatever the rules are. So they implement these rules. Now these rules are implemented based on authority and authority that we have with the government and by force, right? They can force you to pay a fine, jail you, arrest you. They can force you to do things. Same thing with parents, right? We can say, hey, if you don't do your homework, then you are going to be punished, or you can't, play video games or whatever. That's authority, right? We're using our authority that we have to implement the desired behavior, to try to get the desired behavior that we want. Nothing wrong with that, but the con of that is that it's limited. It's limited to what you can force, right? If maybe your child grows up and you can't force them anymore, then they're going to stop doing those things because it was just based on that authority. It's going to be limited to what you can catch, what you can actually see them doing. If you don't catch them doing it, then no harm, no foul, right? And so they can get away with it. So it's limited in that sense, versus influence. And influence is really where you motivate the person to do better, right? To do the desired behavior that you're looking for. So if I am, punishing someone, I say, oh, if you don't do enough push-ups, then you're gonna have to, do this, and that. That's like a authority punishing them, right? But if I say, hey, if you really want to be black belt, awesome, super strong, right? Stronger than it, then, work on these push-ups. And that's going to be an intrinsic motivation where they're going to come up from within and say, I want to better myself, therefore I am going to take these actions. And the same thing applies for school, right? Hey, you're doing this work, not because if you don't do this work, you don't get ice cream, right? That's an extrinsic motivation or a punishment for saying you don't get ice cream, but saying, hey, if you do really well in school, You are, going to learn all these fun facts. You're going to be, be able to travel the world, be more successful, all these wonderful things. And you paint that picture and you say, wow, this is a beautiful thing that I would like to have, that I would like to be. So that's intrinsically motivating to the student to do better. And extrinsic motivation is like that ice cream, right? So you can say, if you're taking away an ice cream that they already had, then that's a punishment, that's authority, right? But if you say, if you complete your homework within the next hour, I'm going to give you a reward. We're going to go out and get some ice cream. That's an extrinsic motivation, another good healthy habit, right? Where they're saying, hey, if I do this good behavior, hard work pays off, I get a reward at the end, right? So that is a great motivating tool that we can use for them as well. Although the intrinsic motivation is really the number one way that you want to go for. And again, it's very easy as parents or as any kind of leadership role to use the position of authority to get the desired behavior, because it's quick and simple, right? You need someone to do something. Hey, if you don't do this, there's this consequence. That's quick and simple, but it doesn't improve the person. And we're looking at trying to improve, especially as parents. Our job is to raise our families, right? Our children. So we want to take it a step further. Next level up would be extrinsic motivation. Next, the best. If you really want to do an awesome job in developing your children, then use intrinsic motivation. Did you see what I did there? I said, if you want to do an awesome job raising your children, use intrinsic motivation. That's kind of like a loop, because I'm using intrinsic motivation because of course you want to do an awesome job raising your child, right? So that brings it to me and say, wow, I'd rather just tell them what to do, but you know what? I really want to do a good job raising my child. So I'm going to intrinsically motivate myself to do a good job raising my child. So the most recent topic that we were talking about was just being outgoing and how to do that, right? Kind of developing relationships, seeking out people who are not talking to anybody and connecting with them, and how that will help you increase your level of influence and your leadership skills, using your body language to connect with people, not slouching and doing this kind of stuff. So being open to doing that. And as adults, I think people just don't smile enough, right? I walk around the supermarket and I'm the weird guy that just smiles at everybody. I'm like, hey, and just smile at everybody. That's fine. Sometimes people don't smile back. That's okay. Sometimes people do smile back and it's great, right? So the more you practice it, the better you're going to be at it. So don't worry about being weird. Just smile at people. So the other thing you can do is compliment, right? Like I've been really practicing just complimenting anything that I can of anyone, right? Hey, I really like those shoes. Man, that, jacket looks really cool. Simple things that you can compliment about people just on an everyday life. It's going to help you build that relationship with people. A really good book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Look that one up. I believe I quoted that right. The third thing I just want to say is try to remember those things, right? So if you're having a conversation with somebody, recall what they, told you. Hey, they had a baseball game and it went well, whatever, and try to recall that. So next time you meet them, one of the things I often do is write notes on my phone, because I'm not very good at remembering things. So I'll pull up a note and write down the person's name, what I met. And there's this person, I won't say the name here, that I see all the time, older gentleman, riding his bike around town. And he rides all the way from Belleville across North Arlington to Kearney. So, I spoke with him one day and I got his name and wrote thing. After I finished, it was a nice conversation. I wrote down all the notes. I didn't see him again till almost a year later. A year later, I saw, oh, there's that guy I had that conversation with. Of course, I had no idea what his name was or anything like that. Looked up in my notes. I'm like, bike guy, man. Looked up, oh, there's his name, and there was a couple fun facts about him, right? So I pulled over and said, hey, name, and sometimes he was so impressed. He said, oh wow, you know my name, So that was awesome, and we were able to do a nice connection and have a nice conversation. So that's just something awesome that you can do and just get into the habit of practicing. So again, these are all things that we're learning in our leadership class, but I really wanted to put it out there for everyone to try to take what you can get from it, and I hope it helps. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.